All right, so the name of the game for this podcast for my brother and I mean, you gotta think about it here. We obviously have some reoccurring themes, but bottom line, it's not like we're doing this for a living. This isn't supporting our family. We're doing it because we enjoy doing it together. We're brothers. We love each other. We like doing this. We typically like the guests we talk to, the subjects we talk about. So this would be an example of we gotta have fun doing this podcast or we might as well just quit. And so I think a very interesting question that many people will not share that sentiment, but many people will. And then some of you that do share the sentiment, you will not care what my brother and I think about this, but it's fun for us to talk about, and that is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time? Now, I asked Jared before starting this episode, and his answer was?
Now I have to say yes.
Now you have to say yes, and why is that?
5 Super Bowls. He's been in 7 Super Bowls. The way he won the last Super Bowl. I always thought he was like probably 2 or 3. I thought Joe Montana was number 1, but now it's just that kind of solidified it for me.
All right, so why Tom Brady? Why is he getting the pats on the back for the 5 Super Bowls? I mean, what about Belichick? What about the Patriots organization?
Well, certainly he has a solid base. But I don't think you can look at Tom Brady and say he's surrounded by the greatest receiver talent in the world. I think he makes whoever's on his team great. Wes Welker back in the day. You have Edelman and Amendola, 2 small guys. I mean, he's making these guys great. Just like Michael Jordan, I think, made his team around him great. So I think that's one dimension of it. I just don't think Aaron Rodgers has Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson, I think, is a legitimately great receiver. But I think Tom Brady is making his guys step up to that higher level.
Yeah. All right. So here's what I've settled on, because I've been obsessed with football ever since you could go to the book fair and buy books on the Super Bowl. I remember the first book that I bought had Super Bowl 19 on the cover. You know who was in Super Bowl 19, Mr. Swenson?
19. I'm gonna say Miami.
You got it.
49ers.
You got it. That was Super Bowl 19. The first Super Bowl I can remember is Super Bowl 18, which was
Raiders-Redskins.
Yes, sir. Do you remember any before that? Do you remember them actually playing?
No.
Okay, neither do I. So anyway, here's what I've settled on. I think that, all right, first of all, I don't have anything against Brady. As far as I'm concerned, make him the greatest of all time. He's got 5 Super Bowl rings. He's obviously dynamic. He's all the things that you said that he is. But I personally think this question is impossible to answer. Absolutely impossible. And 2 major factors is we forget about organizations, A, and then B, we forget about just random circumstances. Okay, so let me just throw a bunch of these at you. All right, so people are saying this game sealed the deal, sealed his legacy of greatest quarterback of all time. Would they be saying that if Atlanta doesn't get that sack and they kick a field goal to end the game? Now, for me, Brady had just as good of a game if Atlanta ended it there, putting Atlanta in a position where they cannot lose. That doesn't make Brady any less successful of a quarterback in this year's Super Bowl, and yet him winning it because of, you could say, that play. I mean, there's these tiny little things that happen in games. So let me give you another example. Right now, you could make a good case for Aaron Rodgers should have played in 2 Super Bowls. Why didn't he play in the second Super Bowl? Well, you could put that squarely on, I think, Jeff Bostic jumping up to catch an onside kick that he shouldn't have jumped up, that Jordy Nelson was ready to catch and fall on. So there's just so many different things that happen that if you're going to say someone's the greatest because of their wins, I say, nah, you just can't do that. So, I'll throw more at you. What if Dan Marino was a San Francisco 49er in the 80s? Are we sitting here talking about Joe Montana having 4 Super Bowl rings with the Miami Dolphins? No, I would say we would be like, man, Joe Montana's the greatest quarterback with no Super Bowl rings. But, man, that Dan Marino, he's got to be considered one of the greatest because, man, he led the 49ers to 4 different Super Bowls. Well, yeah, he had Jerry Rice, he had Roger Craig, he had unbelievable organization coach and all that. So I don't think you can answer the question.
Yeah, so then it seems to me then that you're kind of discounting national championships or Super Bowls as being part of someone's legacy of greatness.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't be part of it, but they should definitely be scrutinized and not be the thing that straw that breaks the camel's back. I don't see how they can. I mean, so you mean to tell me that you think that Tom Brady is that much better than let's go with Joe Montana because of
No,
one Super
I
Bowl?
don't. That much better? No, I think a little bit better. Like, I
Because
mean,
of
I
one
was,
extra Super Bowl?
yeah, one extra
Why?
Super Bowl. Okay, the age he's playing at is like 39, I
Sure,
think. He's
sure.
been in 7 Super Bowls. He's won 5 of them, and he, at the age 39, launched this incredible comeback and won the Super Bowl.
Okay,
So you can say that, had Atlanta kicked the field goal and New England didn't win, that wouldn't really matter. I say, heck yeah, it matters. The Super Bowl win is a Super Bowl win.
right.
It's a crazy. It's rare. It doesn't happen all the time for all these teams.
I mean, I get that, and again, Tom Brady is definitely considered the GREAT. And hey, if you're going to make a logical decision, put him as the greatest of all time. But to me, I don't see how you can answer that. Same point. A lot of you new schoolers, you don't even know who Steve Largent is. Well, the reason you don't know who Steve Largent is because he never had a decent quarterback throwing passes to him. But he's arguably one of the best wide receivers of all time. If you put Steve Largent, who played for the Seattle Seahawks in the 80s, you put him on San Francisco 49ers being thrown at from Montana and Steve Young his whole career, you possibly have Steve Largent, a household NFL name, and not Jerry Rice. I mean, there's so many things that people inherit. Like, do you think, let's say Aaron Rodgers enters the league in 99, 2000, whenever Brady did, and Belichick is his coach. Belichick surrounds Aaron Rodgers with everything Tom Brady has had access to. Wouldn't you say maybe we're sitting here talking about Aaron Rodgers? I mean, so all I'm saying is, for sure, you can make a strong case for Tom Brady, and by all means, you're probably right. But I don't think that can be because of a number of games that you've won. Because if so, hell, don't even consider Dan Marino. Don't even put him in the top 10 because, my gosh, I'll throw Troy Aikman, Terry Bradshaw. Shoot, Doug Williams from the Redskins won
Okay,
a Super Bowl.
I'll grant you that, but let's just say all things being equal, Marino and Brady are tied. But guess what? Brady's won 5 Super Bowls. So that to me is a tiebreaker. So we can put Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Dan Marino on the exact same plane, but the tie goes to Tom
But
Brady.
how can that be a tiebreaker if you and I are in the backyard playing football and you and I are the exact same football players in skill and size and all that, but you surround me with a bunch of 7-year-olds and you put a bunch of 13-year-olds on your team, who's going to win?
Well, I disagree with that because, like I said earlier, I think that Tom Brady, regardless of who his core receivers are, he's still winning.
Yeah.
Whether it's Tiny Wes Welker or it's Amendola or Edelman, they're raising their game because of him. So really don't buy that.
But you can say that
Um,
about a bunch of quarterbacks.
okay, sure, but again, it seems to me that you're diminishing just how important a Super Bowl win is.
I'm not diminishing
That,
the strength of a Super Bowl. I'm just saying that sometimes people lose Super Bowls and it had nothing to do with them. It had to do with the fact that the other team had the ball last, or it had to do with the fact that your stupid defense couldn't stop, Terrell Davis, for instance, or, you threw a perfect pass in the end zone, but your daggone wide receiver dropped the ball. I mean, there's
so
one.
you'd be more comfortable than saying that Tom Brady is the most successful quarterback in
Yes,
the
he's the
NFL.
most accomplished, and I would
Okay.
say we can't answer. This is a fun conversation. I love having it, but I just don't see how it's possible. Like, there's people saying, "Hey, the discussion's over," and I'm like, discussion can never be over until you put every single quarterback in the history of the NFL on this Patriot team for the last 17 years, and obviously that's impossible to do. I just don't see how you can do it. But
Okay.
anyway,
So
you've
another
made your
another
point.
another distinction, though. Maybe there's 3 words. There's best quarterback of all time. There's most successful quarterback of all time, and then there's the greatest quarterback of all time. And I see that word greatest in between best and most successful. So clearly, you can't objectively state who the best quarterback is. But I still think Brady fits the bill of greatest, because when that word greatest carries with it legacy and accomplishments and achievements in addition to talent.
Sure.
So maybe not best, and I see your arguments there. I think maybe best is not a good word because again, you can't really objectively quantify best in terms of raw talent. But in terms of greatest, I still say Brady's it.
Yeah.
Does this conversation transfer over to the NBA and Michael Jordan, or not as much?
I mean, I think basketball may be a little bit different, but I think the same rules apply. I mean, that's as easy as taking Charles Barkley and saying he's not as good as Scottie Pippen because Pippen's got 6 rings and Charles Barkley doesn't have one. I would say no way.
I would say that's complete BS. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just rings aren't everything, and I do agree that quarterbacks pretty much bring you success or bring you failure, and so obviously Tom Brady is one of the greats. I just think it's impossible to measure. But anyway, while we're at it, are there any quarterbacks in the league right now that make the top 10 for you?
You mean aside from Brady?
Yes. I would say, obviously I'm prejudiced, but I think Aaron Rodgers has proved enough in his career at this point he could easily be considered a top 10. He may not be. And again, I think it's hard to even make a top 10, but I think he's definitely proven enough to be in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's not playing now, but I would say Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's not playing now. I think Rodgers is certainly he's one of those guys that without question has some of the most or the highest levels of raw talent and ability I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he's a super smart player.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking about best. He's someone I would feel comfortable with saying he's probably the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
In terms of just pure talent. I think once he gets into the Super Bowl under his belt, then I'd be willing to lump him in that top 10 discussion.
Yeah.
But again, for me, Super Bowls that carries a lot of weight, especially when we're talking about greatest quarterbacks.
All right. Well, you heard Jared. Troy Aikman is definitely in the top 5 because.
Shut up.
All right. Well, once again, continuing the theme of pastor with no answers, there is no answer for this question, despite what Jared wants to say. You cannot determine who the greatest is of all time, and that pisses a lot of New England fans off. You like Tom Brady, right?
I don't dislike him. I'm not a huge fan, but I respect his game. I think he's an awesome player for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it here, guys. Have a good one, and until next football season, we'll resume this conversation then. Hopefully, we'll be talking about why Aaron Rodgers belongs in the conversation because of a second Super Bowl ring.